Acts chapter 25. Now when Festus had come into the province, after 3 days he ascended from Caesarea to Jerusalem. Then the high priest and the chief of the Jews informed him against Paul, and besought him, and desired favor against him that he would send for him to Jerusalem, laying wait in the way to kill him. But Festus answered that Paul should be kept at Caesarea, and that he himself would depart shortly thereafter. Let them therefore, he said, which among you are able, go down with me, and accuse this man, if there is any wickedness in him. And when he had tarried among them more than 10 days, he went down to Caesarea, and the next day, sitting on the judgment seat, commanded Paul to be brought. And when he had come, the Jews which came down from Jerusalem stood round about, and laid many and grievous complaints against Paul, which they could not prove. While he answered for himself, neither against the law of the Jews, neither against the temple, or yet against Caesar, have I offended anything at all. But Festus, willing to do the Jews a pleasure, answered Paul and said, Will you go up to Jerusalem, and there to be judged of these things before me? Then Paul said, I stand at Caesar's judgment seat, where I ought to be judged. To the Jews have I done no wrong, as you very well know. For if I am an offender, or have committed anything worthy of death, I refuse not to die. But if there are none of these things whereof these accuse me, no man may deliver me to them. I appeal to Caesar. Then Festus, when he had conferred with the council, answered, Have you appealed to Caesar? To Caesar shall you go. And after certain days, King Agrippa and Bernice came to Caesarea to salute Festus. And when they had been there many days, Festus declared Paul's cause to the king, saying, There is a certain man left in bonds by Felix, about whom, when I was at Jerusalem, the chief priests and the elders of the Jews informed me, desiring to have judgment against him. To whom I answered, It is not the manner of the Romans to deliver any man to die, before that he which is accused have the accusers face to face, and have license to answer for himself concerning the crime laid against him. Therefore, when they had come here, without any delay on the next day, I sat on the judgment seat, and commanded the man to be brought forward, against whom, when the accusers stood up, they brought no accusation of such things as I would have supposed. But they had certain questions against him of their own superstition, and of one Jesus, which was dead, whom Paul affirmed to be alive. And because I doubted of such manner of questions, I asked him whether he would go to Jerusalem, and there be judged of these matters. But when Paul had appealed to be reserved to the hearing of Augustus, I commanded him to be kept until I might send him to Caesar. Then Agrippa said to Festus, I would also hear the man myself. Tomorrow, he said, you shall hear him. And on the next day, when Agrippa had come, and Bernice, with great pomp, and had entered into the place of hearing, with the chief captains and principal men of the city, at Festus's commandment, Paul was brought forward. And Festus said, King Agrippa, and all men which are here present with us, you see this man, about whom all the multitude of the Jews have dealt with me, both at Jerusalem and also here, crying that he ought not live any longer. But when I found that he had committed nothing worthy of death, and that he himself has appealed to Augustus, I have determined to send him, of whom I have no certain thing to write to my Lord. Wherefore I have brought him here before you, and especially before you, O King Agrippa, that after examination I might have somewhat to write. For it seems to me unreasonable to send a prisoner, and not further to signify the crimes laid against him,